Hello everyone and welcome to our weekly wrap-up of news stories that made the headlines. I'm Nicole Cordovez and this is the MB Rundown. President Duterte said that the issue of terrorism was the main concern raised by the world leaders who participated in the meetings during the recently concluded 31st ASEAN Summit. According to the president, half of the time taken during the interventions was the issue on terrorism. The Philippine government itself has just concluded its 5-month war against terrorists in Marawi City, Lanao del Sur. Duterte revealed that leaders of the regional bloc and their dialogue partners, including Japan, the United States, and China, vowed to work together to combat terror groups. It was also revealed throughout the summit that world leaders commended Duterte and the Philippine government for being able to handle the Marawi crisis well. In their joint statement, U.S. President Donald Trump expressed his condolences for the loss of lives in Marawi City and vowed assistance in the rehabilitation of the war-torn city. But despite the commendations from his fellow leaders, Duterte revealed that nobody really won the war in Marawi, even if the Philippine government troops were able to neutralize the terrorist leaders. Meanwhile, Duterte also thanked his fellow world leaders and their respective governments, particularly Japan, Russia, USA, and China, for their support to the Philippines during the war and even now during the rehabilitation of Marawi. President Duterte was not quite happy when Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau raised the issue of human rights and extrajudicial killings related to his drug war in a private conversation Tuesday. Trudeau revealed in a press conference in Pasay City that he raised the issue with Duterte and that the president was quite receptive to his comments. He also said that he impressed upon Duterte the need to respect the rule of law. According to Duterte, he is not obligated to explain to anybody the situation in the country related to his administration's all-out drug war. The president also said that he is insulted whenever a foreigner criticizes his drug war as they do not really know about the domestic affairs of the country. Duterte, meanwhile, encouraged other world leaders to not rely on data on the drug war deaths provided by his political enemies. Trudeau earlier explained before the members of the Philippine and international media that Canada has always discussed issues on human rights with all of its dialogue partners and not just the Philippines. According to Trudeau, it is important to talk about human rights, even admitting that Canada has its own share of instances where some of its citizens get neglected or marginalized. Malakand said President Duterte has earned the trust of U.S. President Donald Trump after the White House announced it was pouring in $101.3 million or about 5.1 billion pesos to support the initiatives of the Duterte administration. In a statement issued Wednesday upon Trump's return, the White House said the U.S. government pledged the amount to support the rehabilitation of Marawi City, the country's counterterrorism efforts, and the administration's drug war. According to the White House's statement, of the $101.3 million, $14.3 million or 750 million pesos will be for the rehabilitation of Marawi City, $85 million for counterterrorism-related equipments, training, and support for the armed forces, and $2 million or roughly 101 million pesos to support the administration's drug war. Presidential spokesman Harry Roque said it would have been better if Trump made the announcement during his 3-day stay in the country so that President Duterte could have shown the country's appreciation immediately. The president held a bilateral meeting with Trump on Monday on the sidelines of the 31st ASEAN Summit in Pasay City. It was evident that Duterte and Trump bonded well the second time they met, even calling Duterte by his first name during the ASEAN-US Commemorative Summit on Monday. Before Trump left the country, he told Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea to relay to the president that he enjoyed his stay in the Philippines and that he liked his Filipino counterpart. Roque had earlier said the two leaders seemed to enjoy each other's company with a common dislike for Trump's predecessor. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang said China will begin discussions with the ASEAN countries on the fine print of a Code of Conduct, or the COC, for the disputed South China Sea in a move that will stabilize the region. Li addressed the leaders of ASEAN in Manila on Monday, saying that he hopes that the talks on the Code of Conduct will bolster mutual understanding and trust. He also said that they will strive under the agreement to reach a consensus on achieving early implementation of the Code of Conduct. He also said that there was a consensus on moving forward to try to peacefully resolve the issue. The framework seeks to advance a 2002 Declaration of Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea, which has mostly been ignored by claimant states, particularly China, which has built 7 man-made islands in disputed waters, 3 of which are equipped with runways, surface-to-air missiles, and radars. All parties say the framework is only an outline for how the code will be established. Signing China up to a legally binding and enforceable code for the strategic waterway has long been a goal for claimant members of ASEAN, some of which have sparred for years over what they see as China's disregard for their sovereign rights and its blocking of fishermen and energy exploration efforts. The 10 leaders of ASEAN have already agreed to officially begin negotiations for the Code of Conduct in the South China Sea, while the situation is calmer now. The Philippines will act as country coordinator for the ASEAN-China Summit next year, with the assumption of Singapore as the next chair of the regional bloc. What was supposed to be a night of fun and music turned into a nightmarish event Tuesday night at the Ayala Triangle Gardens in Makati City. An oversized crowd that came to watch the ASEAN Music Festival 2017 went into a frenzy, prompting the ASEAN National Organizing Committee to stop the show. The Ayala Triangle Gardens has a maximum capacity of 6,000, but authorities said the crowd which trooped to the site for the free show reached to about 15,000 people. Chief Senior Superintendent Gerardo Umayao said over 30 people collapsed and many attendees sustained injuries and abrasions when the crowd started shoving each other as soon as the first band, popular Pinoy band Parokya ni Edgar, came out on stage around 7:30 p.m. The show, a sideline event to the 31st ASEAN Summit, was cut short around 9 p.m. Some of the bands that were supposed to perform at the event joined attendees in expressing dismay over the organizers' lack in security preparations. The lineup of performers included local rock bands Franco, Silent Sanctuary, and Ben and international acts from ASEAN member states. Senior Superintendent Umaya reiterated that the show was stopped by the organizers with the safety of the public in mind. He said it became too hot at the site. There was just too many people, and it's in the best interest of everybody not to proceed with the concert. A 24-year-old lady who reportedly felt dizzy lost her right arm to a moving train as she fell off the platform of MRT3 station in Makati City Tuesday afternoon. Makati CCTV footage, Umayo said Fernando fell off between the second and the third coach of the train just as it started running. Transportation Undersecretary Cesar Chavez said that they were sorry of what happened and that improvements are needed to modernize the train stations in the country. This was not the first record incident for this month that a train passenger was hurt in an accident. Just last November 6, a passenger of LRT1 Hilpuyat Station in Pasay City got his foot caught on a moving train and suffered head and body injuries. Meanwhile, surgeons at the Makati Medical Center was able to reattach the right arm of Fernando 11 hours after it was severed. Chavez was informed by attending physicians that Fernando's arm was reconnected on Wednesday at 3:46 a.m. Based on the statements of Fernando's parents and her friends, Fernando often suffers dizziness whenever she finds herself in the midst of a huge crowd. Chavez personally spoke with the 24-year-old victim while inside the hospital's operating room and told her the MRT3 will extend financial help to cover her hospitalization fees. He assured her that they will never leave her. A North Korean soldier involved in an extremely rare and dramatic defection to the south was shot 6 times by North Korean border troops as he dashed over the border, military officials and doctors said on Tuesday. The US-led United Nations Command, or the UNC, said the soldier had driven close to the heavily guarded military demarcation line separating the two Koreas. He then exited the vehicle and continued fleeing south across the line as he was fired upon by other soldiers from North Korea. An official with the South Korean Joint Chiefs of Staff said that North's border guards fired at least 40 rounds. A doctor treating the injured soldier who was helicoptered to a hospital for emergency surgery said he had been shot half a dozen times, including a serious stomach wound. It is very rare for the North's troops to defect at the Truce Village, a major tourist attraction bisected by the demarcation line and the only part of the frontier where forces from the two sides come face to face. The fact that the defector drove to the border suggests that he may not have been a member of the elite corps of North Korean troops posted to Panmunjom, who are carefully vetted and selected for their loyalty. According to the South Korean military, there was no exchange of fire across the border, and the UNC statement stressed that no South Korean or US forces were harmed in the incident, which happened in broad daylight. Unlike the rest of the frontier, Panmunjom is not fortified with minefields and barbed wire, that the border is marked only by a low concrete divider. Australians voted in favor of allowing same-sex couples to marry. Official results showed Wednesday, sending the task of legalizing marriage equality to a deeply divided parliament. Almost 62% of the 12.7 million people who participated in the two-month postal survey voted in favor of allowing gay marriage. The Australian Bureau of Statistics announced at a press conference in Canberra the no vote garnered 38.4% only. Same-sex couples will be able to marry by Christmas, but first Parliament must adopt legislation giving the non-binding vote result the force of law. Thousands of marriage equality supporters erupted into celebrations at rallies in major cities across Australia when the result was announced. Australia's Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, a moderate conservative who supported the legislation, called the yes vote an overwhelming endorsement of marriage equality. He reaffirmed that his government would now push ahead with passing legislation to change the marriage laws by Christmas. Turnbull defended the ballot's legitimacy, saying that he was confident of pushing the issue through Parliament in a conscience vote, where lawmakers are not obliged to vote along party lines. Wednesday's result was a historic accomplishment for proponents of marriage equality after more than a decade of political wrangling and 2 months of voting, which highlighted deep divisions in Australian society over the issue. GCash just made shopping a lot easier. Last Saturday, GCash joined the Glorietta Madness sale to give mall-goers more options to enjoy the mall-wide sale. Mall-goers got to experience cashless shopping through the scan-to-pay feature of the GCash app, where users received up to 500 pesos worth of cash back on top of the discounts and raffle promos throughout the duration of the sale.
They could expect a lot. In fact, we're doing, like for example, today we're doing G-Day here in Glorietta, but we'll also be rolling it out in other Ayala malls and moving forward other malls as well. So for consumers, they could expect a lot of cashbacks, a lot of refunds and promos that go together with our merchant partners.
In time for the Glorietta Madness sale, Globe partnered with Teriyaki Boy, Potato Corner, Wendy's, Bench, Zara, Krispy Kreme, TGI Fridays, Marks & Spencer, and other merchants all over Glorietta. If you didn't get to catch G-Day in Glorietta, you still have the chance to avail of great discounts from GCash at the Trinoma Greenlight sale on November 18 until November 19 and at the Noel Bazaar. Download the GCash app now or visit www.gcash.com for details. Star Magic and Pinoy Big Brother alumni Bailey May is off to conquer the international scene after being chosen by top producer and celebrity manager Simon Fuller to be part of the upcoming global pop group Now United. Now United features 14 artists from 14 different countries ages 14 to 19 years old who can all sing and dance. Red won the Grammy-winning songwriter for Lady Gaga, Michael Jackson, Shakira, and many others, has committed to write the songs of the first album of Now United. Simon Fuller has over 500 #1 singles under his belt. He is one of the most successful executive producers of all time, responsible for the American Idol and So You Think You Can Dance franchise. So good luck to you, Bailey May. Actress Maria Isabel Lopez admitted that it was a lapse of judgment when she drove through the VIP lane reserved for the ASEAN delegates on November 11 and subsequently posted photos of her infraction on social media. At the LTO hearing, a remorseful Lopez insisted that she only entered the VIP lane after the constables of the MMDA failed to answer her question if it was okay to use the lane. Lopez said that she was forced to use the VIP lane since she felt the urge to urinate after consuming plenty of juices, which her personal health regimen requires. LTO Law Enforcement Service Director Francis Ray Almora said Lopez's claim may only be validated through the CCTV footage of the MMDA. Lopez's counsel arrived at the LTO office without any position paper in reply to the November 12 show cause order. Because of this, Almora merely recorded Lopez's oral explanation with the condition that the written version be submitted. Once the written position paper is submitted, LTO Chief Edgar Galvante will decide on what punishment or sanction to impose on Lopez. Almora said punishment may be suspension or revocation of her driver's license. Lopez can always appeal. Lopez is facing administrative cases of reckless driving, breach of security, disregarding traffic signs, and violation of the Anti-Distracted Driving Act. On Saturday, Lopez posted on her social media accounts that she removed the orange divider cones and passed through the special lane designated for ASEAN delegates. And for this week's Thought to Ponder On. The secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old but on building the new, and that is by Socrates. And that's it for this week's edition of the MB Rundown. I'm Nicole Cordovez. Have a great weekend.